Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news. We're back in the office for a morning show. I think that's worth a like straight away. But do Manchester City enter the race for Baleba? We've got a report about that. We've also got an interesting report around Donna-rumours. Do you dare to dream about Donna-rumours? Garnacho has agreed personal terms. Do you make him wait? I just think, do what suits us. We'll talk about that as well. A few other bits to get into around the striker as well. Ben Jacobs has put a tweet out. Could be at a cracker. We'll talk about that. Lots to get into. And as always, oh God. That'll be last night's Chinese. Ben Jacobs has said that Benjamin Sesko. Well, look, I wasn't going to talk about Sesko massively this morning because I think it's sort of getting to that point where I don't massively find it interesting. With all due respect, he's also put in something about Baleba. So we'll talk about Baleba next, but let me just talk about Sesko very, very quickly. Carrington today, he's there doing the medicals. He's told me on Instagram, and he is then going to be unveiled on the pitch tomorrow. Now, United therefore probably will wait to do the official thing tomorrow, maybe sort of like around kick-off. That's what they've done before. So Sesko's a Man United player. It's just the process of the medicals, which are probably happening right now, on the pitch tomorrow, and the quotes from Wilcox and Barada and Sesko will obviously come out as well. So he is well on track to be a Manchester United player, and well on track to be in for the Arsenal game a week on Sunday. Exciting stuff. Now, let's talk about Baleba, because Brighton's preference, according to Ben Jacobs, is to keep Baleba until at least summer 2026. Now, Brighton are a funny club. I know a couple of journalists, actually, that I would listen to in relation to Brighton and Brentford, who you wouldn't normally listen to. I'm not saying Ben Jacobs is one of those. I mean, I think Ben's been very good this summer. But certainly Brighton are quite good in relation to what I would say the British press. They do speak to them. So, it's not necessarily Romano and Ornstein that are going to lead on these. But Manchester United have made an inquiry via intermediaries and were not quoted a price. The Brighton hierarchy believe Baleba can be worth as much as Moises Caicedo one day, who the club sold to Chelsea for £115 million. So, look, that's not much of an update because it's coming in via Alex Crook, who works for TalkSport, to be fair. So Ben Jacobs is quoting him. This is exactly what David Ornstein said 2 days ago. We've made an inquiry via intermediaries, and Brighton want to keep him for another year. So there's nothing new there, other than they want a very, very big price for him. So I wouldn't say that that's anything new. I think what is new is the report that came out this morning from ESPN that Man City would be willing to join the race if Manchester United got into a position where they could sign Baleba. And I actually think there's probably something in that. Even though it's ESPN and people might go, it's not true. I just think he's such a good player that will alert other clubs. And although Liverpool probably can't do anything this summer, and although Arsenal probably can't do anything this summer, Manchester City might be able to do something this summer. So even if we get to a point where we can move forward on Baleba, I wouldn't be surprised if Man City came in this summer. And I certainly think if we wait till next summer, it's going to get more and more difficult, which is why I think Man United have got to push it now. I don't think we will do this, and I don't think we can do this. So I don't think we can go, we expressed an interest in Baleba, that's enough to stop the protests, isn't it? Everybody's happy again now. I don't think that will be enough, and I don't think that's what United's angle is. As I said, I've seen a couple of people going spin. You pretend you want a midfielder that you can't get just to keep everybody happy and stop protests, etc. I mean, look, the Glazers have been manipulative over the years, but I genuinely don't think that's the plan from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I think the plan is to realise quickly, which they have, that they're falling further and further behind clubs that are ahead of us and spending a lot of money. So we also know that our midfield is not good enough and it's problematic. And it doesn't matter how good your front three is if you have a midfield that is going to get exploited. So I think we do want a midfielder. And I think we have to go for Baleba. And if we don't get Baleba, we have to go somewhere else and say we're not getting Baleba. So this is why I've always said around Baleba that it's a bit of a fantasy, even though everybody wants it to happen. Everybody wants it to happen. We've been speaking about it for months. You've got ex-players talking about it in the last few weeks. He is the right signing for Manchester United, but it is tremendously difficult to do. And what worries me is that Brighton will say that you're not having him early at a cheaper price because we genuinely believe another year in a Brighton shirt he will be another Caicedo. And I don't disagree with that. So how do you land on a price? And does it lure a Manchester City in as well? So I think it's very interesting how that will plan out. And my belief still is that we have sort of nailed our flag to the mast by actually going for him publicly, and I think that we will have to adhere to that. And I would hope that we have a plan that's not we can get him cheap, because if our plan was we'll give you £60 million, we were never going to get him. The package has got to be 80 million now, and see if they bite. And if they don't bite at that, do you walk away for the for 10 million, or do you stick in the race? And maybe we do things like Collier. Maybe we do things like, throw another player in. I think we have to be creative here because it's a one shot. Somebody said it on the watch along, on the watch along, on the 8 o'clock show last night. This Baleba thing feels like it's one shot at it. I don't think we'll be, well, put it this way. I think we've got more chance of getting him now than we will next summer. Agree? Disagree? I think we've got more chance now than we will next summer, because I don't know whether we'll be in the Champions League next year, but I know Liverpool will be. I know Arsenal will be. I know Man City will be. And I know Chelsea will be. And when you look at their midfields, there's already rumours of Rodri going to Man City. Liverpool will probably want to bring in another midfielder next summer. Arsenal, might as well. So I think it's now or never for Manchester United. I mean, look, I'm not saying that we can't get him next summer. I think Ben Jacobs made a great point with Terry yesterday where he said that with Sesko, Man United did try to get him last summer, so you've already done a bit of the groundwork, and you go back a year later and you show that you're willing. But there's nothing next summer that's going to be better. That's what I'm trying to say. His price will have gone up if he has a good season, and more clubs will be interested. Maybe Real Madrid. I mean, I don't know why we're so Premier League centric as well. Real Madrid need midfielders. As exactly, Ehi says, why do we just think about the Prem? Real Madrid need midfielders. PSG need midfielders. Why would they not come in as well? So I think that it's now or never for Manchester United. And that's why I firmly believe that if we don't get Baleba, we have to go for somebody else. And somebody queried me on this yesterday in the chat. And they said, I disagree. If we want Baleba, then we should wait till next summer. Well, my point is, that's fine. That's an opinion. That's absolutely fine. But my point is, if I say to you, like, I'm trying to think of an analogy here. If I say to you that, I can't think of one. I've got a really daisy head today this morning. But basically, if I say to you, I really need something and I can't afford it, do I just leave it, or do I go and try and find something else? And that's what I think Man United have done. That they basically told the world we need a midfielder by moving for Baleba. And if they can't get him, the world is full of midfielders. You can't just go, that's the only one that we want. We have to go and get something else, because it's not a luxury, it's a necessity in that midfield, in my opinion. Noah says, Pep would make him such a boring player to watch. From what I've seen from him, he's such an exciting player. We can't let him go to City. We need him, says Noah. Look, in fairness, this story has still got a lot of legs in it. It's either the strangest story ever, whereby you get David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano saying that we're in for Baleba, and then 2 days later, no, we're not, he's too expensive. I mean, I don't know what purpose that serves. Or it is the start of something, and I believe it's the start of something, so let's see what happens with it. I mean, look, I'm just thinking on my feet, it might be the start of something where you go, we're in for Baleba, hello Sporting, we're in for Baleba, but if you do us a good price for Youngland, we'll do it now. Or hello Crystal Palace, we're in for Baleba, but if you give us a good price for Wharton, we'll do it now. Now, those clubs might go piss off, we'd rather keep our players, but you don't know. If we wait to gamble next summer on Baleba, we'll either lose out or be in a bidding war where we pay close to 100 million anyway, so we may as well do it now, says Trina. Yes, and I am still very much subscribed to the Conspiracy Weekly, that is that Bruno's going to Saudi next summer, and we already know that, and we already know that money's going to be coming in. So I still think that might be a way that we can justify the funds, even in the same financial year, if we can sell Bruno in June. Can't we use Mainu as a make weight since he don't get in the squad, says Liam. I mean, look, pragmatically, you could do that. But I think at the end of the day, you really are sort of... look, it's difficult for me because I want Man Utd to stay. I want him to be, you know, for me, Manchester United is everything, but it's also hugely important that you have players coming through like David Beckham and, you know, Mainu, etc., because that's what we're all about. And I look at the youth now, we're about to get rid of Garnacho, you know, Obi, and Garnacho to a certain extent are bought talent, where Mainu has come through the youth properly. So I wouldn't want Mainu to go. In different circumstances, Liam, I think you're right. Where does he fit into the team? Brighton would probably suit him like a glove, playing week in. I mean, look, the way I think the way Liam's coming at it, and you have to be fair, is that if you did a deal with Brighton involving Mainu, Mainu would play every week for Brighton, and he would he would fulfil his talents in the next few weeks because he'd be playing every week. Is he going to play every week for Man United? No, he's not. But Man United don't want to sell him. Mainu doesn't want to go. Most Man United fans don't want him to go. But I do agree with Liam I don't agree with Liam, but I do agree with what he's saying. Like, Mainu at Brighton would play every week. He won't play every week at Man United. Richard, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Mohammed, thank you very much for your super chat. MMA Takedown says, I'm on hate watch when Garnacho puts on the jersey. Well, we'll talk about... Probably do Donna-rumours next, then Garnacho, actually. Let's push him down the list a little bit because he's irrelevant. Actually, let's push him right down the list. I mean, I love this. I love the fact that we will talk about Garnacho, but we'll talk about him when we're ready to talk about Garnacho because there's far more important things to talk about. With the 115 charges and uncertainty about Pep in the long term, then factor United's size and history. It's biased, but United should be better prospects, says Marty. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't actually going to go there, but why not? I think if it's a straight race between Man City and Manchester United for Baleba, we win. And Man City fans are going to go, ow, 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 ow. Yeah, get in line. Newcastle did that as well. Arsenal did it with Mbeumo. You know, obviously you're in the Champions League. Obviously you've got a very, very good side. Obviously you've won loads of Premier League titles. Obviously you've got Pep Guardiola. But there's something about Man United this summer at the moment. And I think that Baleba would look at that and go, you know what? Look at what happens to flair players at Manchester City. I mean, that Savio looked really good. Never uses him. Doku, sporadic. Grealish, ruined. Baleba is, as I said, able to tackle. He's able to pass. But the big thing about Baleba is his ability to get the ball and drive forward with it and take people on from the midfield. I mean, Pep's going to bloody hate that. Stop it. Passing lanes, triangles. So I think that if City want to join the race for Baleba, let them in. But I think I'd still fancy us to win it. Wouldn't be as straightforward as the Newcastle one. Obviously, it'd be a lot harder, but I think we'd win that race. I really do. People would mock me for that, but I think there is something going on at the moment with United. Signing Baleba seems increasingly challenging, but this is our only chance. If we aren't able to sign him, we should at least sign another midfielder. And Jay, I have nothing more to say. You've covered it in a sentence. I don't need to say anything else because that's exactly it. We have to try. We have to try now. And if we don't get him, we have to go for something else. That's it. What we can't do is try, not get him and go, oh, we tried. It's a one-shot lottery. I don't want us to go, we tried and we'll be back next year. No. We tried, we failed, we go for something else. And that's just what we're going to have to do. And for all those people like myself who really, 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 really want Baleba, we'll just have to suck it up and go, look, we tried, we didn't get him, we have to get something else because that midfield cannot be the midfield. It's the difference between potentially getting 5th and potentially being 8th. That midfield ain't going to be good enough. It's not. Daniel Cunningham says, if Rasmus stays, what happens with Xerxes? Do we just keep him as a 10 or cash in as we have so many options ahead of him at 10 now? Daniel, I personally think that, I haven't been told this, but I think Rasmus wants to stay and fight for his place, understanding that Sesko will be the number 1. I think that's what I would like to see happen, but I don't think it is going to happen because I think you've absolutely nailed it. What happens with Xerxes? Like, Xerxes getting no minutes in this team at the moment. He has to be the support striker because if he's not that, he's nothing. So I think Rasmus will go and Xerxes will be the support striker because I can't see a place in the team for Xerxes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously sometimes he'll play in the number 10 position, but when you've got Cunha and Mbeumo, Mount, Bruno, Ahmad, Xerxes will get a bit of time at number 10, but he won't get a lot of time. Most of his time's going to have to be off the bench for Sesko in the last sort of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, which is different, but I think that's going to be the plan, to be honest with you. The Cunha deal was on the last year's financials, says Frederick. Thank you very much. Why are we not in for Donnarumma? That price is a steal, says Bjorn. Okay, let me talk to you about Donnarumma. There is a story around Donnarumma. I've heard so many people talking about Donnarumma. I feel like we needed to just like summarize the situation as it is right now. So effectively, Donnarumma, apparently, according to L'Equipe and other French sources, is keen on a move this summer and doesn't see Manchester United as a no, even though we've got no Champions League football because of the prestige of the football club. Now, according to L'Equipe, PSG have struck a deal to bring in Lille's Lucas Chevalier for a fee of £35 million. That's without bonuses. And they reckon that that deal is going to be done before they play Spurs next Wednesday in the Super Cup. So the feeling is that if you're spending £35 million on a goalkeeper, yes, the likes of PSG, Real Madrid can do that and use them as a sub-goalkeeper. But I think the feeling is at PSG is that Donnarumma is not going to sign a new contract. So PSG have done exactly what I would want Manchester United to do. If we had a player that won't sign a new contract, who's a really important player, I'd buy a replacement and say sign the contract or you're going on the bench. And I think that's basically the situation Donnarumma is in. Now, from what I've been reading over the last few months with Donnarumma, because you do have to do a little bit of digging, I think Donnarumma's situation, agency and himself was, I'm the best goalkeeper in the world. I've just won the Champions League and I'm going to be PSG's goalkeeper until next season when I'm a free agent and I'll assess my options. PSG have been very, very clever in the sense that they've gone, well, no, you can run your contract down, but we're not going to wait. We're going to bring a number one goalkeeper in now. And we're going to say to you, sign the contract or go. And effectively, that's the situation. So I wasn't fully aware of all of this. I sort of guessed this was the case. But the reality is PSG have brought Chevalier in for number one. And they're saying to Donnarumma, sign the contract or leave. That's probably moved past that now. Because if he signs the new contract now, they've got Chevalier. So basically PSG are like, we've got a new number one. You can stay and run your contract down or you can find a club, but you're not going to play. So Donnarumma is now in a position where the tables have turned slightly because he's sort of got to find a club or he's got to sit on his arse for a year. So does that mean he's more likely to come to Manchester United? No, not necessarily, because obviously players that want to run their contracts down want big paydays and big signing on fees and big agent fees. And I don't know what the situation is with Mino Raiola's agency now, because obviously Mino Raiola is no longer with us. Paul Pogba, Erling Haaland, Donnarumma, Zlatan were all part of that stable. Look at Haaland. Huge amounts of money went away from Dortmund into the pockets of other people when he moved from Man City because he had a release clause. So the thing about Donnarumma is, even though PSG are looking to move him out, and even though Donnarumma might be willing to come to Manchester United, it's going to cost ridiculous money. So, personally, I think Donnarumma may be heading to Saudi because that's probably the place where he can get big money and it's high profile. I don't see how we can do this deal because it's going to come down to finances. And we absolutely won't, and I absolutely agree, give him 300 grand a week. Because we would be morons. We did that with De Gea, and I love De Gea, but we really shouldn't have been giving him 300 grand a week. I mean, I love De Gea. I can't wait to see him at Old Trafford tomorrow. But we did pay stupid money. So, yeah, we can't do that. Could we loan him, says David? I would loan him. But I suppose, what's the point? Because in a year's time, he's going to leave and you haven't got a goalkeeper. Having said that, a year with Donnarumma over a year with Onana is still better, isn't it? So I would do the loan deal. I don't think there'd be any future protection for us, though, if that makes any sense. So that is the situation with Donnarumma that I think many of us just needed to know that, didn't we? Because a lot of people are saying, can we get Donnarumma? Can we get Donnarumma? And as I just said, well, he is available, but financially, it would be ridiculous. Signing Baleba, I've done that from Jay. Thank you, Jay. We need the hotometer back. Transfers are getting exciting for once, says Steve. Yeah, we can bring that back. I've seen a few people say Mbeumo, Sesko and Cunha all turned down Champions League football for better wages at United, implying they lack character, ambition and are soulless mercenaries. What's your thoughts on that, says Trapjaw? None of their wages are massively different to what they would have earned at Arsenal or Newcastle in the case of Mbeumo and Sesko. Cunha, I don't even know if he had another offer. I don't know that anybody else went for Cunha because it was a release clause. There's rumours that Newcastle did, but we're not paying stupid wages for any of those players. So the wages that were on offer from other clubs would not have been massively different. Yeah, haters are going to hate. Need to decide on Baleba now. If not, who's plan B, says Jack. I would like Hojlund from Sporting, Edison from Atalanta, possibly Wharton at Palace. One of those three would be an improvement on what we have. If we get 50 million for Garnacho, we have to be able to bid at least 80 for Baleba, surely, but we probably won't get over 40 for Garnacho, says Shane B. If City are genuine in for him, it's actually good. This will prompt United to move fast. If we do not get him, we could move on to a new player soon, says Shaunock. Excellent after show yesterday, Mark. I'm still a bit confused about the football law in the UK and what exists. Can you give a quick explanation, says Rajaf. Quick explanation is it's been going on since the 1960s that you can't watch UK games on TV between, I think it's 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, or 2:30 or something like that. This is a rule from the 60s that was done so that if you couldn't watch Man United because they were playing away, you might go and watch Oldham or Stockport and support provide support to younger clubs, other smaller clubs, which probably did used to happen in the 60s. But in 2025, the rule doesn't make any sense because if Arsenal are playing Bournemouth and only 1,000 UK Arsenal fans can get a ticket, the rest of the hundreds of thousands of Arsenal fans aren't going to go and watch Leyton Orient. They're going to use a dodgy stick and watch it. So it's just a completely and utterly ridiculous rule. I hope you're having a great day. What is your prediction? Will we get Baleba, says Hake? Oh, get straight in there, Hake. I like it. I like those sort of direct questions. You know I do. Do I think we'll get Baleba? I am sort of around 50-50 on it, to be honest. But if you want me to give a definitive, because I don't like sitting on the fence, yes, I do. I think in all the transfers I've seen over the years, you get used to paths. And I think what we've got here is the public declaration that we want the player. And then the club that owns the player, their public declaration that they want big money. The next step is probably the player wants to leave, and that both parties are negotiating a fee. So I think that a deal will happen, yes, is my stance at the moment. Look at Isak and Liverpool. It hasn't happened yet. Liverpool have publicly declared their interest. Newcastle have said he's not for sale, he's not for sale, he's not for sale, he's not for sale. And then we hear that Isak wants to leave. It still hasn't happened yet, but Newcastle will still get a good fee. It's not like Isak is on strike yet, but I think it will happen. If we wait to gamble next summer on Baleba, we'll either lose out or in a bidding war. I've done that one from Trina. Thank you very much for that. Right. We need Baleba now or someone similar because we still have got another midfielder next summer when Casemiro or Bruno goes, says Michael. Do you feel that we have a strong enough first 11 and a good bench, or will we be weak if we get 1 or 2 injuries, says Frederick? I mean, I think this is the sort of stuff we're going to start talking about on the 8 o'clock shows over the next sort of week as we move into the Premier League season. I think that we are not, and I've said this a few times, especially on the tour, injury FC still exists. Xerxes hasn't had a pre-season. Mazraoui's missed quite a lot. We know about Onana. I wouldn't be surprised if De Ligt's got an injury as well. I think that injuries are going to be a very big problem. Not just because our fitness department isn't up to it, but also because we've got a lot of players that pick up injuries. Like if you're an injury-prone player, you don't just press a button and stop being injury-prone. Unfortunately, we have quite a large collection of players that are capable of picking up knocks and being out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I think that's always going to be a problem for us. Hopefully the newer players won't be like that and we can start to filter out those problems. But look, let's be clear. We've got 4 of the top 4 in our first 8 games. It's the start of the season, so you would hope a lot of your players will be fit. But if you go into like that Liverpool game, which I think is game 8, and I can't remember whether it's at Old Trafford or Anfield, you go into that game and for whatever reason, Sesko's not available and Cunha's not available, then suddenly that team is very similar to last year. And that is how fragile I think it could be. Cunha was on 120k a week at Wolves, so not a big increase, says Zet. I'm travelling to Manchester today for the Fiorentina games, says Andy. Priced out of competitive games, but my kids 7 and 9, 7-year-old and 9-month-old get their first visit. Lovely stuff, Andy. What about a loan to buy for Donnarumma, says Riley. And does Sesko start against Arsenal, says Christopher Fletcher. I think there's a chance. I mean, he'll have a full week of training, so I don't subscribe to the view that you need to have played a pre-season game to start a Premier League game. I mean, if he has a week full of training, then why not? 26 million for Donnarumma would be the best deal of the summer. I can't believe no one is in for him. He must be after big wages. Absolutely, Sean Turner. When do you think the Garnacho deal will be done, says Heikki. I'm going to do that now. And Kraus says, we won't sign a midfielder, but Casemiro is going to have his best season with us. Only 1 game a week and proper rest training in between. Sorry, I'll leave it at that. 105 million, that can get us 2 very good midfielders. I believe we should be looking at that scenario. Mount's injury prone. Bruno might leave next summer. Casemiro is not in the plans. Leaves us with only Mainu and Agate, says Mojo. And if Brighton want 1 more year, why not loan Mainu and cash for Baleba? So Brighton have a replacement now. Then in 12 months, Bruno leaves. Mainu comes back with a year of regular games under his belt. Done. I like it. Mark, if we're only interested in young talent, why aren't we going for Doué or Yamal? Okay. Welcome to the Members Club, pal. Get Baleba and Ineos transfer madness suddenly feels like Ocean's 11, except with footballers and slightly worse suits, says Robski. We can't be already fed up with the Baleba story. It's like we inflict this on ourselves. Also, Xerxes will come into his own this season. Definitely keep him, says Simply Red. But where will he come into his own? I like that statement, but where will he come into his own? Where are you putting Xerxes in that team? That's my question. It's the same as with Mainu. Xerxes is going to come into his own this season. Where are you going to put him in? CJ Smith, thank you very much. But, like, seriously, where are you going to put him in? Because he isn't going to play in the midfield because he's not a midfielder. You've got Cunha and Mbeumo and Ahmad and, well, Bruno and Mount, who can play as the 10. And Sesko's just been brought in as the striker. So where's he going to come into his own? I mean, if he does, it will be sensational. But I think, obviously, off the bench, he's going to be an impact player, definitely. And you do need a bench. King Solomon's right. And Anders says the fans will fume if we don't get Baleba now. And Harvey says, since Ineos came, we didn't give anyone the salary of over 200 grand a week, says Harvey. I don't know what De Ligt's salary is. I don't want to get 195 grand a week, so you're right. Reportedly. 195 grand a week. Listen to this. Victor John Victor was awaiting at Rio Airport to travel to London for his medical with the deal agreed between both him and West Ham, only for West Ham to pull out at the 11th hour. The way West Ham have conducted themselves in all this is disgraceful, says a source. Wow. That's an interesting one. Also, coming in from Italy, AC Milan and Man United have almost reached an agreement for Rasmus Hojlund for a 5 million loan plus the option to buy for 40 million, all in euros. The deal could reach up to 50 million euros with bonuses. So there. I mean, I don't want that deal to happen. I know a lot of people do. I don't want that deal to happen. And I certainly don't get the point in loaning. I don't get the point in loaning. No Man United fan trusts loans to buy as a good deal anymore either. So I don't really understand why we're loaning. Like, I'd rather keep. If we're only going to earn 5 million and cover his wages, I'd rather keep, because what if like something goes wrong with Sesko? It's just we're weakening our team to earn pennies. If it's a permanent deal, I get it, but a loan deal, I'd just rather keep. We need 2 strikers, like Garfield says. I don't know why we'd weaken ourselves just for. But it will be financial. If I'm being honest, it'll be about. Even if it is 5 million, the club will be like, well, there's the wages as well. We can save 10 million here, and that might be a down payment on another player. So I know why they're doing it, but it's just a little bit frustrating that we're willing to be light up front, and yet we're stacked at centre back. I'd like to be stacked up front, to be honest. A few players need to find a place. Competition is good, but if those unlikely to get a chance don't step up, they should move on, says John United. What would your starting 11 be without Baleba, says Nigel? Well, my starting 11, well, I've got to put Onana in goal. I'd go Ahmad and Dorgu as the wing-backs. I'd go Yoro, Mazraoui and De Ligt as the centre-backs. I'd have to go Bruno, even though I don't like him in the midfield. I'd have to get him in somewhere. I'd probably play Agate over Mainu and Casemiro. Obviously Cunha and Mbeumo, and then Sesko up front. There's still weaknesses in that team, though. I mean, I start off on a negative because I've got to put Onana in goal. I don't really want to put Bruno in the midfield. So there's two areas in that team, really, midfield and goalkeeper, that concern me. Fearon, thank you very much for gifting a membership. That Casemiro chat made me laugh. He gets run past even in training, says Michael. Speaks, yeah. Casemiro still retains a cult following in this fan base. I mean, I like Casemiro, but look, the reality is the reality. I saw him do a tackle on the US tour, and I think it was the game against Bournemouth. And it was so late, he actually tackled a West Ham player. It was like his game over the last 18 months has slowed down. One of the best holding midfielders I've seen in the game over the last decade, but he has slowed down, and he ain't going to be able to deal with that. And it's not a coincidence that he played well in the Europa League and struggled in the Prem. The Premier League is quick, and he doesn't do well in the Prem, but he did do well in the European League, Europa League, because it's a bit slow. So if we were in Europe, I think Casemiro would be a useful player, but in Premier League, I just think he's too slow, especially in the midfield too. I mean, I'm not talking about system, but if he was in a midfield 3, at least he's got 2 other people to help him out. In a 2, he gets even worse there. Terry says that De Ligt is okay. He has been training. That's good news. I hadn't had that update. MMA Takedown says, if Bruno goes next season, I'd love to see De Ligt as captain. Also, I hope Maguire Brexit tackles Garnacho next season. And that's from MMA Takedown. Tuanza says, if not Donnarumma, what goalkeeper would you be realistic? Well, I still think we're going for Lemens. As I said at the start of the week, I was told that once Sesko's out of the way, we'll go on to the goalkeeper. Now, this Baleba story has dropped. Does that mean we're still going to stick to one deal at a time and stick to that? Or are we actually going to go for the goalkeeper? I mean, Bienda needs to go. I don't know why he's still here. I mean, Bienda's been an absolute waste of time. He was brought in by Ten Hag as the goalkeeper. I mean, look, when Onana's in goal, you need a backup goalkeeper that pushes him, and Bienda's even worse. So the goalkeeping situation does need to be resolved. I'm hoping that there's something in our back pocket that makes sense, like maybe Emi Martinez after he's served his ban, or something like, or Ter Stegen or something like that. I'm hoping there is something there, because we did approach Villa about Emi Martinez, but it's looking more and more unlikely. But I'm hoping there's just something. There's something brewing, really. And maybe it is Donnarumma, I don't know. Right, let me talk to you about Garnacho, because we've left him late enough, and I've purposely done that so that there is a realisation that actually we don't massively care about this player. We care about Garnacho about as much as Chelsea do, really. I mean, it's like I'm sitting here waiting for Chelsea. Yeah, Garnacho's like the person on holiday, right? Who it's a week-long holiday, yeah, and on the last night you get invited out with the lads. That's Garnacho, and he sat there all week telling everyone, "I'm going out with the lads on Friday night," and you're like, "Yeah, they were out last night. They're out the night before. They're on holiday. You might be going out with them, but you're not the priority. You're going out on the last night. You know, they're you know, and this is what I mean about Chelsea. Gittins and Esteval and Pedro and all the players they bought, and he sat there like he's the dog's bollocks. Oh, Chelsea. They've left you till last, mate. You're that much of a priority. They've left you till last. The season starts in a week. They're not desperate to get you in, are they? I think Garnacho just ticks a box for Chelsea. I think he's another player that they look at and they go, he's under 22, he's reasonably cheap, he's got potential, Let's bring him in. Let's see how he does. And if he doesn't do that well, we'll sell him to Lyon for 40 million and get our money back. That's exactly how I think Chelsea are looking at Garnacho. Like they've done with other players. I don't think they even value him as much as Madueke. And look at what happened with him. I think he is just another player that ticks all the boxes, that's probably got sell-on value. And if he ends up being brilliant, like Cole Palmer, great. And that's the Chelsea policy. And you can't argue with it. They buy a lot of players that are talented. And if they work out, great. And if they don't work out, we'll get our money back. And that's why I think Garnacho is just such a low priority for Chelsea. Obviously, there's a lot of Chelsea fans that don't want him. Hopefully, he will grow up there for their sake. But apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano this morning anyway, the personal terms have been agreed with Garnacho. He only wants Chelsea, and the negotiations will start now. Chelsea have been told by Manchester United that a cash deal is the only option. They're not interested in any swap deals as well, which I think is very, very important. But according to Fabrizio, the personal terms have been agreed with Garnacho, and it's now about negotiations. I mean, look, I think I've seen people say, you know what, don't let him go. You know, don't let the little twat go. I mean, which is a bit horrible, but do let him go. I think that not letting him go is bitter. Not letting him go is like we're bothered. And I just think, look, let him think he is whatever he thinks he is. Let him jog on. Let him go to Chelsea with a point to prove against Man United. Let him get on social media next year, which he will do. I'll tell you now, right? I'll give you this for free. I'll give you this for free. And if I'm wrong on this, I'll be very surprised. He will go to Chelsea, and Chelsea fans will be unsure about him. He will kiss the badge the first opportunity he gets, and he will behave like a knobhead to other clubs, probably Man United, to curry favour with Chelsea fans very, very quickly. Because one thing he is very social media aware. So he will become loved by Chelsea fans very quickly by acting up for Chelsea fans. And that will be kissing badges and doing things that is pro-Chelsea and negative towards anybody else. Probably at the expense of Manchester United. And I'll tell you that now before it happens, and I think we all know that's going to happen. So the stance of Man United's got to be, knowing he's going to do all that, do we actually care? Because if we care, it's like we're making a mistake. We are doing this because we want rid of him. So I don't care if he goes to Chelsea. I don't care if he starts kissing the badge. I don't care. Like, we've got to move on. And honestly, I think there is a really talented player there that has ruined his opportunity at Man United, but that's up to him. We will move on. Better players than him have left Manchester United and we've moved on. He's certainly not David Beckham or Cristiano Ronaldo. You could argue he's not even Anthony Elanga, but that might be a bit harsh. The point is, we just need to cut loose and let him go. And ideally, he would be playing in another league, but if he's going to play for a team that's higher up the league than us and play in the Champions League and everything, and if he starts, you know, constantly being about proving us wrong, as a Chelsea fan, I'd be like, we've basically got a United reject that can't deal with being rejected by Man United. And if that's going to live in his head, let it live in his head, because I think it will. I think for us, we've got to look at it and go, would you rather have kept Garnacho and not got Mbeumo or Cunha? And the answer is no. I didn't want Garnacho to go, but I think the behaviour and what's gone on over the last few months hasn't been great. But also, if I'm being completely honest, I always used to let him off for this because he's young, but it doesn't change the fact he doesn't pass. He doesn't pass. And he shoots from everywhere, and his shot's not even that good. So at least with Cunha and Mbeumo, you've got two 25-year-olds who are Premier League proven with loads of goals and assists. So I just think sometimes you need to take out the emotion and go, okay, he's going to go to Chelsea, he's going to go up yours, he's going to kiss their badge and all that. But the real question is, in life, you don't get to break up with somebody and then they can't go out with anyone else. You might break up with someone for very good reasons. A couple of years later, you're on holiday, you see them walk past, you know, they're trim, and they're looking good, and then they're looking happy with someone, and you look over and you go, it's human nature. You might go, oh. But then you look at what you've got, and you should be going, well, I back my decision. So you can't stop other people going off and doing things for themselves. That's absolutely fine. You've just got to look at what you've got and go, I made the right choice. And Mbeumo and Cunha or Garnacho and Rashford, we made the right choice. As of today, in a year's time, look at what happened with Scott McTominay. But as of today, we made the right choice. And I'm not interested in the dragging it out or causing him problems. He's missed his pre-season. He's an idiot. He's done personal terms with Chelsea. Fine. We just need to get money out of Chelsea, not a swap deal. And if it's 40 million plus 20 in add-ons, do it. If it's 50 million plus 10 in add-ons, do it. If there's a sell-on fee in there, do it. And as Amir says, in Amorim we trust. And I think that ultimately has to be what it's about. So I think there's a level of maturity in this fan base now around what we're doing. And we don't need to be bitter. I think there will be people who are going to be booing him and stuff like that. I think that's, completely understandable. But I also think that, it's not like we're losing him and we haven't got anybody else. We're bringing in players that are good. And look, I like Garnacho. Well, I did. As a player, I do like him. But if he was still at the football club, answer me this. Do you think this season Garnacho was suddenly going to start playing like Mbeumo and Cunha and scoring loads of goals and creating loads of goals? No. He still would have been a work in progress. He's still a learner driver. So that's an aspect that people don't want to talk about as well. All right, his attitude might have been bad. All right, he needs to go. All right, we've got better players in. But also, starting this season with Cunha or Mbeumo or Garnacho, those two players are Premier League proven. He is still a learner driver for the next 2 years. So even from that point of view, if he was here, he'd be on the bench anyway. So this is the right decision. It's the wrong decision if you don't buy Cunha and Mbeumo. We're weakening our attack. But with them here, it's the right decision. It's the right decision. And Chelsea's path is not ours either. So if he goes to Chelsea and they win the Champions League, well, fair fucks for getting a move to Chelsea, because Chelsea's trajectory is different to ours anyway. We're trying to be Chelsea, and actually, to be blunt, we're not. Our chances of closing the gap on Chelsea are better with Cunha and Mbeumo than they are with Garnacho, and that's the mic drop. And he might not like that, but we all know it's true. We've got a better chance of catching the top four with Cunha and Mbeumo than we have with Garnacho next season. And it is that simple. I feel like people forget that we used to sit here each round complaining that he doesn't pass. 40 million plus sell-on is reasonable. Would you pay £50 million for him, says Slazy? On his price, I'd take 40 plus add-ons, because I think that that's the price. If we can get a little bit more, and I think we might, fine, but nothing below 40. But my reason for that is that there are people like João Pedro, Elanga, and everybody else who's gone for between 50 and 65, if you can include Mbeumo. And Garnacho should be in that category, but he isn't because of the behaviour of the club and him since the end of the season. It was a public fallout, and you have to deduct something from that. So that's why we can't really ask for 55 or 60, because yes, you could look at Elanga going to Newcastle and say there are similarities, but ultimately, we all know what's happened. He's been on, and we also know that he's banned. So he's not even training with the team, is he? So this depreciates the value, and that's why you've got to lock in. At the end of the day, you've got to knock in sell-ons and add-ons. Peter prefers Xerxes as a backup, says Boffman. My problem with Xerxes as a backup striker is if you take Sesko off and you bring Xerxes on, they're very different. Whereas if you take Sesko off and you put Rasmus on, he plays on the last man. Xerxes more technical. But look, some people do that. Man City sometimes would take Hojlund off and bring Alvarez on. Very different strikers. So, you know, there's not a problem with that. I think that's the way we're going to go anyway, Boffman. I'm 12 minutes behind. Here's how Xerxes fits in. Bench option to replace Sesko as a Firmino-esque false nine when chasing the game, receiving the ball to feet, and Bermo, Cunha, Ahmad running in behind. Yeah, I think you're probably right to be so. Could PSG let Donnarumma... But the problem is to be so. If Sesko gets injured and is out for 3 months... You've got to play with a false nine striker for 3 months. That's why I'd keep Rasmus. Because if you've got Xerxes and Rasmus, you can play 2 different ways if Sesko's not available. Whereas if Sesko's not available, you've got to change how you play. That's why I would keep Rasmus. Because he offers a different way of playing. And it's not about the last... I mean, I find it incredible, but people talk about, oh, last 20 minutes, we could have a false nine like Firmino. What about for 3 months over Christmas when Sesko broke his leg or something like that? That's when you've got to play with Xerxes every minute of every game. And that's when Xerxes doesn't play well. You've got to use a 17-year-old. So could PSG let Donnarumma go on loan for the remainder of his contract and we cover his wages and give a huge sign-on fee next summer, says JK? I don't know. I don't know. I feel we've got something in our back pocket when it comes to goalkeepers, but we'll have to just wait and see. Garnacho's price should be the same as Mount's price, non-negotiable. Offer a cheaper deal to a European club, his choice to accept or right in the reserves. The trouble with some of our players this summer, and this is why it's good riddance, is that Rashford was like, I'm only going to Barcelona. Even if somebody will offer you money, I'm only going to Barcelona. I'm only going to Barcelona. And that fucked us a bit. Anthony, even though people are offering us money, I'm only going to Betis. I'm only going to Betis. And he knows Betis can't afford him. And Garnacho, I'm only going to Chelsea. I'm only going to Chelsea. So this is why you need to get rid of these players. Because their behaviour types are horrific for the football club. And they basically sat there like spoiled children and gone, I'm only going here, I'm only going here, and fucked us. So that is why Garnacho is going to Chelsea. That is why Anthony's... I mean, look, the ridiculous thing for me is, when it comes to Anthony, I always praised him. I was like, you know, look at Anthony. Went on loan to Betis. Amorim came in. Amorim didn't fancy him. Goes on loan to Betis. Does really well. Boosts his value. You know, has the best loan of everybody. And you think, you know what? He will want to be in the Brazil squad. He'll have a move in June. And here we are in August. He's the last with Sancho. I'm stunned by Anthony. I thought he'd like had a bit. I thought he was a bit misunderstood. You know, I thought that, you know, some of the criticism had been a bit unfair. I thought he'd had a renaissance. I thought he just wanted to play football. And here he is, no pre-season, sat on his arse, trying to force another loan move to Betis when we've been paying him 200 grand a week for 3 years. Mate, you signed a contract with Man United. We're not here for it to be a fucking charity so you can go to Betis again on loan. He's behaved badly. People don't want to hear it, but he has behaved badly. Because again, it's just all about what he wants. And we're paying him 200 grand a week at the moment. People wonder why these players are happy to sit on their arse and miss pre-season. Because they're on fucking good money, that's why. Sal says, Garnacho and Tevez are like two sides of the same coin. The difference being that Tevez in a Man United shirt actually was fucking brilliant, to be fair. Absolutely brilliant. Just in, Anana to West Ham, I'll buy his ticket. I wish that was true, Damien, I really do. Seth says, I love the new attack. Even the other teams are nervous now. However, with that shitty keeper, if we get conceded, morale will drop in the game. It's going to be... I'm very excited about the start to the season. Baleba is paid very little, which means you can buy out his contract less than 5 million, definitely less than 80 million. Be creative and be ruthless, says Rian. If Martinez gets another long-term injury this season, I fear for his career. Different conversation, Kraus, but you're not wrong. Right, I'm going to go. 2 o'clock today. Beth's back. She's back from the tour. She's had a few days off. She's ready to go. She's raring to go. She's missed, again, another here we go. She's basically, people say I need to go out. You just need to ask me when Beth's on annual leave, because she always misses here we goes. But she's back at 2 o'clock, and we have the 8 o'clock show. It's Friday night tonight as well. So thank you everybody as per usual. Well over 20,000 watching again. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get your comments in if you didn't watch live, because there's a lot in there. And we should go for Baleba in January. No, Benjamin, you're wrong. We need somebody now. It's now or never. We've got to get a midfielder in, because in January we'll be mid-table if we don't get a midfielder in. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you all in a bit.